TV journalism completely changed me because it got me out of my little white middle class girl bubble. And I saw the world in a whole different way. And when I would tell my parents about it, they would worry about me. In fact, my father was scared when I started doing investigative work. He said, they'll just look at you, Dana, like you're a little girl and they'll come after you. Be careful.
My father had me tested, take a psychological test, because women do not do news. So I had to go take this test to see if I was normal or not. And they said, well, she needs day-to-day variety, so she's got it.
Wow. Eventually, I became the editor of my University of the Americas newspaper. So I got into journalism and I was like loving it. And one day I walked across the den in my parents' house in Houston, and my mother said, look at this. Look, there's a woman giving the news. And that woman was Jessica Savage, and she was doing the weekend news. And I was stunned because I had never seen a woman give the news on television. In Houston, I was offered a job as a camera woman intern. And I took the camera woman intern position. And you might get a kick out of this because I got Linda Ellerby's job. And Linda Ellerby had left and gone to the network, and that left one slot open for a woman. And they didn't replace her as a reporter. They replaced her with me as a camera girl intern. And I think I was making probably like $100 a week.
I met Dana at the women's conference.
Some 20,000 women from Maine to Alaska are expected in Houston for the National Women's Conference, a 4-day event billed as the largest government-sponsored meeting of women in history.
Among the platform guests were First Lady Rosalind Carter and former First Ladies Betty Ford and Lady Bird Johnson.
And they wouldn't let the network crews in because they didn't have women. So there was a scramble to find women that would be on this crew. And so nobody knew any women that could shoot. So they put out this big thing across the whole state. And Justine, where she was working, that guy was giving all of the equipment to CBS crew. So he said, if you join the crew, you get to shoot. And we all wanted to shoot. Justine wanted to shoot. I wanted to shoot. All these other women, 2 other women too, that came on the crew. And so he told us we all would shoot just to get us there. And then, of course, Justine said, well, I have the equipment. I'm going to shoot. And so we all just schlepped that. It was a giant, huge Bach Auricon, and we schlepped it all over the convention center. And it was crazy. And we did not know what we were doing at all.
I must admit, I was the camera woman and it didn't come out great. It was okay. It was my first shoot.
At KHOU, I was the first full-time female camera woman. And the edit bay the edit area, I guess it should be called, was the last bastion of chauvinism. And it was tough. And I was very happy that there were stalls in women's bathrooms because I cried a lot. And they would say mean things to me, and they would call me the C word. And then others started being nice to me and kind of showing me the ropes, and really started helping me. Justine, when you got to Channel 13 in Houston, they weren't that overtly mean to us, like I kind of experienced in the beginning. They had accepted the fact that we were going to be there, but they always gave us the crappy equipment.
You know, I remember one time, Dana, I was at a festival and the beeper went off and I found a payphone, and some big thing had happened. I don't remember. It was a riot somewhere. And I was with this guy. All I had was shorts. Do you remember this? So I went to the scene, and I think you or somebody else showed up with some long pants. And I was like, oh dear, I must leave. You know, here's this woman showing up with long blonde hair and short shorts on with a camera.
I
Because
have a
we always took our cameras everywhere.
I have a picture of me with my camera, my news unit, and I am in a crop top and hip hugger jeans. I mean, I laughed so hard. I was like, talk about 70s. We had a blast. I mean, we were like adventure queens, you know? Things were blowing up and the floods were happening, and we were there. We were witnessing history, right?
And we were pretty cute, you know? And we walk out on a scene and people liked us. I mean, really liked us because we were fun and funny and we laughed a lot. And but we were very serious about our project, whatever we were doing. We did a story on women fighting back. We were sent out. What was the initial? They sent us out to do a story on women who've been raped. So we flipped it around and did women fighting back. So what women were doing in order to stay safe, you know. And that we got a lot of feedback for that because, you know, women weren't victims in our story.
And we did this thing that today is considered common, but back then it had never been done in Houston, and we did recreations. And that was like, I mean, I can remember we got a lot of the other reporters hated us for that, but the viewers loved it, and the phones rang, and the ratings went up, and the salespeople came down and they talked to us, and it was a hit. And I remember thinking, remember, Justine, we thought, God, this must be what it feels like to have a hit, right?
If there was no news that day, we'd find news, and it may be a fluff story of some sort, but it was fun and funny, you know, but somehow or another, we always came back with something. And that's why news directors liked us. I don't think there was a day that I didn't have a story.
If you're going to be in television, it really helps to know about the vision part of it, you know? So being a camera person is just the best background for anything.
Starting out as a camera woman, and then I went to New York as a camera woman, and that opened up a lot of doors for me.
Working there in Houston was the best graduate school that anybody could ever go to. It was fantastic, and we had so much fun.
Also edited our own stories. So by that, you really saw any mistakes. You know, you really saw that, oh, next time I need to do this. I'll never forget my first story that I did. And I went out, and it was a helicopter bringing in an injured person on the top of the hospital. And I forgot to shoot the sign, you know, whatever hospital it was, and Herman Hospital. And so I didn't have any cutaways. So because I had been editing all these stories, I went to another story that I knew had this, you know, the picture of the Herman Hospital, stuck that in my story, and boom, I learned something. You know, I went, oh, that's what you're supposed to do. Identify where you're at.
One really exciting story was, we called it Super News Sunday. And that's when a tropical storm was moving into Houston, and it was flooding everywhere. So we were all running around covering the flooding. And then lightning struck oil storage tanks, and they blew up. And then the storage tanks leaked the burning fuel into the ship channel, and the whole ship channel went up in flames. And we had the helicopters out and everything. And Justine, you got to tell about your helicopter ride.
Where the station was, there were a lot of tall buildings. So the helicopter goes up, and then it goes up. And we finally get to the station, and Dana's waiting outside. And I literally threw her the tape, because it was a big storm. I literally threw her the tape in the box at the back door so she could run up and put it in the news real quick. It was really exciting and scary.
It's coming in and it's pouring rain and it's windy because you've got a helicopter and you've got a tropical storm. And there's Justine hanging out of the side of the helicopter. As we learned to do, you put your foot out on the strut and you hold on, and she threw the tape at me. And I caught it.
Yeah, that's what I couldn't believe when you caught it. Like, whoa, that was good. I've had so much fun in this business. I've had every day is different. You know, every day you meet, you know, you're in a different place and with different people, and you learn so much. And that's what I loved about it. I mean, we learned, you know, I would remember when I was shooting a fire and the building around me collapsed. And this fireman, it was really smoky. And I, you know, I couldn't, sorry, I couldn't find my way out because there was smoke everywhere. And so this fireman just reached in and grabbed me and pulled me out. And I was like, how'd you know I was in there? He's like, I never lose track of the people around me. And it was pretty amazing.
But I do wish I had made more money now that I'm retired. It would be fun to have more money. But I watched guys make lots more money than me. Women in television news changed subjects. And the Women Fighting Back series is a kind of an example of that, because if a guy had gotten it, they would have just done the poor, you know, ladies getting raped, you know, all the time. What a bunch of dummies. And it would have been a completely different story. And I think throughout my career is that it's true. People of different ilks bring different angles to the story, and it's valid. We were told back then that we didn't have the guts and to do this kind of man's work. And so if we were going to do it, we had to be really tough and we couldn't complain. And so that's why we kind of took all the what's today, you know, considered extreme sexual harassment. We took it and we didn't say anything about it. We just sloughed it off, because the deal is that you can't take it, so you shouldn't be here. And so we said, we can take it. My father had a really interesting, he was always one of my great supporters. And he told me once, he said, Dana, be careful about these jobs that suddenly they open up to women, like news director and things like that, because then they're less valued. And so I went, and so I watched that. And I watched all these guys that I knew who were news directors become general managers, and women became news directors. And when the women became the news directors, the power was lessened. So yeah, it's hard. It's hard, still hard. Little did we know, we were pioneers. We were pioneers. And you know what they say about pioneers? Pioneers, most of them die on the side of the road. And that's it's hard being a pioneer. It's really hard. We all found out about this one situation that we'd all gone through, and we didn't find out about it until they came up with #MeToo. And all of a sudden, about 4 of us found out that one guy had sexually harassed all of us in Houston. And that was pretty interesting to me. And that's part of that thing of where I said to you, we were told, shut up, you can't take it. If you can't take it, you can't be in here. You can't be in the room because you're a girl if you can't take it. So when they would say, you know, or proposition you or stuff like that, you just laughed it off. But yes, they did do it, but we laughed it off. Certainly hope that more women, you know, stay in, get in, go after it, and not just on being a celebrity and the pretty face. Get behind the scenes, get dirty, don't take no for an answer, find that story, find another one, keep going, and be happy.